Why are you excited to be here tonight?
Because I'm just excited.
Yeah. No other explanation. Now, I do believe, tell me the truth, is it true that your dad has a ringside seat but didn't get you guys ringside seats?
That is true, but it's because of his YouTube channel, okay? It's his YouTube, okay?
Her dad's an influencer. Let him go, guys. But your dad's awesome, right?
Yeah.
See, he's awesome! Yeah! Give it up for Claire. Thank you so much, Claire. High five. Yeah!
What is up, everybody? I think you can hear me this week. I think I'm good to go. HOTTOGO. Will you take me hot to go? Is that how it goes? I don't know. I got kids. I should know this stuff. What is up? This is the pre-party. My name is Jay Cal. Each and every Tuesday, we come to you, that hashtag NWA fam, to talk all things National Wrestling Alliance. And this Tuesday's no different, except for I'm not wearing an Alliance shirt. What happened there? What happened there? I'm not wearing an Alliance hat. I'm wearing the 76. What the hell's going on with me today? Oh, I don't know. But it is, it's Tuesday, and that means we're talking NWA. So what's up, everybody? I see I have a bunch of friends in the chat already. We already logged off the TikTok, and now we're here with you guys. So let's talk. I see Willie Bowen left his first joke of the day. They kind of evolved a little bit, so let's see if I get it right here. Hi, J. Cal. Tyrus and Aaron Roberts will be in the first movie franchise, The Fast and the Furious. They will see who's the quickest at getting Domino's. That's pretty good, Willie. Domino's. If you want your pizza delivered, why not Domino's? Who are you gonna order? Pizza Hut? Ugh. Hey, my boy DK's in the house. What is up, DKM? How are you, sir? It's a great picture of you, man. It's a very fine picture of you. Sam Retro's in the house. Sam's my guy. Sam's my guy. Sam's been posting a ton of content that he shot at the 76th anniversary on both his TikTok and his Instagrams. If you need another access point for your NWA content, check out Sam Retro's stuff, man. He's getting it down. It's good stuff. And Double D, Devin Dowling, finally made the announcement. Baby's coming. He's celebrating a marriage anniversary. He's living the life, Double D. He's like a 22-year-old, like nature boy Ric Flair. Yeah, her dad does stink, man. That was a fun little time, man. That was actually last January in Mesa, Arizona, at the Red Carpet Rumble. Maybe the only third wrestling match my daughter's ever been to, but they knew Johnny LaQuasto, the announcer, the voice of the United Wrestling Network, from his Kit Kat commercials on YouTube. And so she felt super comfortable with him. And he was taking questionnaires from the audience, and they were just, trying to warm up the crowd a little bit. And, old LaQuasto had to rib his boy Jay over here. And it was funny. I laugh at it every time. But I kept thinking, like, damn, dude, you're being pretty harsh on me, man. They were not supposed to be there. That was supposed to be a me-only show. And then at the last minute, the wife changed her mind, said she wanted to go. They brought the kids. My wife doesn't go to any wrestling shows at all. Like, she used to go to all of them. Now, like, hardly ever. She goes to a show that's a kind of a big deal. So, yeah. So they weren't gonna be there. So it wasn't like I didn't buy them a ticket to be an asshole. I bought my ticket like months in advance, and then bought general admission tickets just a few days before we went because they didn't plan on going. Retro said, I finally got to post my video from 76. I was struggling not telling spoilers and not posting spoilers. You and me both, Retro. Like, I haven't said anything about, obviously you talked about the world title. I've talked about the world title And I think that's newsworthy. It's noteworthy. And the NWA has acknowledged that there's a new world's heavyweight champion. We saw that. Look, they were at the Riot Fest. Tom Latimer had the title on hand. And although I don't know if those matches are considered canon for the NWA, like, he was defending the title. I think he defended against Bryan Idol at least one of those days. So, like, he's racking up title victories, and we haven't been able to talk about it because the embargo from, self-imposed embargo from the NWA. So now that it's free and clear, we can talk about it, and it's all good. Yeah, Retro. Of course, man. Your stuff is good. You're doing the same thing that I'm doing. Like, you should get your YouTube channel fired up and do what I'm doing, man. Make a little bucks off of this stuff. I know how you feel, Jay. My wife only likes wrestling if it's a women's division or Mercedes ain't on the screen. Hey, man, that's a start. My wife used to hate the women's division, but if it was Eli Drake, she would sit there and like, If it was Shane Haste, like, she'd sit there and shut her mouth for 5 minutes and watch wrestling. It's the weirdest thing. I don't understand. When the women's matches came on, she's like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. I'm like, all right. Wait a minute. Anyways, it's Tuesday. It's a happy day in the Kaylee household, the J Cow family. My 9-year-old got a promotion today. She's now number 10 instead of number 9. I got them all in double digits now. I did my job. I succeeded. I've got a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 20-year-old. And before you say it, Double D, yes, I know I'm old. These gray hairs in the beard tell you that. Double D says she started in 2013 with the WWE Women's Revolution. It really came at the right time for my wife. That's cool, man. Look, it's wrestling, and I've always said this, it's a mixed bag, and you can't cater to everybody, but people will connect with what they like, right? Like, they'll connect with what they love. And like, for me, I've always said this time and time again. I think my favorite era of wrestling was like late 90s, early 2000s WCW cruiserweight divisions, when you had that mass influx of international talent. You had Ultimo Dragon, you had Juventud Guerrera, Rey Mysterio, Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Jericho. And there was such an influx of this international cruiserweight division. And, I loved it. I was absolutely floored by that, and seeing those matches. And, we had a local guy from Southern California, Blitzkrieg, who was part of it. Super Calo, a lot of the whole luchadores from Tijuana, La Familia de Tijuana. That's talking about Halloween, Bestia's dad. And that was just a fun time for wrestling for me. Psychosis, and it's that to me will always be like what kept me a fan of pro wrestling. Like, I was close to not watching wrestling more. I was a senior in high school in 97, 96. I was playing football. I was wrestling in high school wrestling. I was chasing girls, man. I didn't have time for Monday nights. And then all of a sudden I saw these cruiserweights and I was like, wow, what is this? That's the wrestling I want to watch forever. And so, like, things change, man. And that's literally what kept me involved with wrestling, or else I would have been done. Double D. Yeah, well, we started having Nitro parties after that. We started watching Nitro like in 2000. Like, when I got out of high school, I would have buddies come over for Nitro and Raw, because living on the West Coast and having DirecTV at the time, you got TBS or TNT with an East Coast feed, but you got the USA on the West Coast feed. So our Nitro would start like at, like 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock. And then we would watch Nitro all the way through. And then, like, the last hour, we'd go back and forth between Raw and Nitro, leaning heavier on Raw. And then at the end, they would replay Nitro. If we decided to stay up late, we could watch the end of Nitro too. So it was a lot of fun. Fuzz is here. What's up, Fuzz? That's my guy. Fuzz was the inventor of, where is it? I have it here. Fuzz, I still have a few of these left. I should have brought them this year. Fuzz made these. You guys see that? Or maybe his son made them. I'm not sure, but I always appreciated that. That was a very cool thing, Fuzz. Yeah. So, no, I did watch the NWO, but, like, that was the NWO came later. Like I'm talking about like when Hulk Hogan was battling the Dungeon of Doom. Like that stuff was not cool. It was boring. I'm talking about when WWE had Duke the Dumpster Droese and Nikolai Volkov joining the $1 Million Corporation. It was like this stuff was ridiculous and it was lame. But there was a lot, like wrestling. Again, wrestling has been a lot of fun, and I've been watching wrestling my whole life. But there was a point in time where I was almost checked out. I was almost done. I'm pretty sure I would have come back to it, especially during the Rock and Stone Cold era. And I NWO, I'm sure all that would have dragged me back. The great Hisa is here. What is up, Hisa? Willie Bowen says NWA Power needs more women's wrestlers from Mission Pro on their roster. Hey, man, I don't think Mission Pro has any of their talent like locked up, right? Like if the NWA wants them, I think they just have to make a phone call. And especially with their connection with Jazz, I think if the NWA wanted more women's wrestlers, they could get them. And it's not like they even need to have an official partnership with Mission Pro, although I think that would be a wise idea for the NWA, but it's not something that I think they need to do. And right now, I don't know if Mission Pro is still actively running. I think the last I heard that they took a hiatus. If you haven't seen Blitzkrieg's work, it's something else. And that the fact of the matter is he came literally from just blocks away from where I grew up, from Santa Ana, California. He trained, if you've ever heard of the name Super Dragon and Blitzkrieg basically were training at the same time. And they were working with a guy named Ron Rivera, who was doing a lot of stuff with Lucha Libre AAA and Conan. And that's how he got discovered. And if you go and look, you'll even see a Super Dragon dark match in WCW. And if you don't know who Super Dragon is, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla is the brainchild of Super Dragon. And if you don't know what Pro Wrestling Guerrilla is, just realize AEW probably wouldn't exist without PWG. Undisputed Truth says, NWA, please sign Haley J and Kayla Rossi ASAP. Well, we know Haley J was at the last round of tapings in Tampa. I don't know that Kyla Rossi was. I haven't heard much about Kyla Rossi since the 76, but we know Holly Hood, Haley J was there. So that's, they got half of it right for you. If, those Tampa tapings are going to pretty much carry the show, I think, Power until the end of the year, I think, unless something else happens. Every Monday was a party for me. That's right, Retro. Undisputed Truth says, will Elon Musk buy 50% of the NWA since they are on the X? I don't think so. Look, I don't know what the end game plan is with being on X. I know that there is a lot of wrestling enthusiasts on the X. That is not disputable. There's a ton of content creators and just fans of the fans of wrestling on X. So I think it's a bold strategy. I think it's a smart move, to be quite honest, that you put your product where it's readily available to an audience that might have missed it, might have purposely avoided it, and putting it right there in front of their face and saying, hey, this is the NWA that we've been talking about. This is the NWA we want you to watch. And maybe, I'm excited to see what this week's numbers are going to be, because last week, apparently they had close to 89,000 views. And I mean, that's pretty impressive. That's almost Power numbers from season 1. And as I'm looking here, I'm just heading over here to the X page, and I'm looking at their Twitter feed, and I'm looking at 119.2 thousand views. That is 100% what they were doing on YouTube in the first season of Power. Now, are they making money for this? I don't know. They weren't making that much money on YouTube anyway. And it's not my money, so what do I care? It's not my money. If they want to give the show away for free, then let them. Why are we arguing about that? Why are we upset about that? If they're going to give away their platform for free, let's just enjoy it while we can. I'm sure there's going to be another step, another churn, another pay window for the NWA and Power. But until they find it, like, hey, let's just enjoy a free product that's available internationally. Fiona could cancel her VPN. Tim could start watching if he wanted to. the Monday Night era, the Monday Night Wars era was the best era. Absolutely. So Sam Retro, it's crazy because we're talking about this, right? In 96, you had the J Crown, right? That was the title, the International Cruiserweight Championship, the 8-tuplet title that was held by Ultimo Dragon in the WCW that featured the World NWA Junior Heavyweight Championship. Think about that. The WCW program had the NWA World Junior Heavyweight title involved with its cruiserweight division. And on the flip side, in 98, you had the WWE bring in the whole NWA. You had, James Cornette. You had Jeff Jarrett as your North American champion. Where that NWA North American title, it hung around for a lot longer than I think people remember. They brought the NWA Tag Team Champions in. It was originally the Rock and Roll Express, and then the new Midnight Express, Bombastic Bob and Bodacious Bart or whatever it was. And this all eventually led to bringing in Dan the Beast Severn, who, although never defended the 10 pounds of gold in the WWE, literally brought that title to the WWE. And that single-handedly saved the NWA back in the late 90s. And all the membership flourished shortly after that. So it's just crazy to think about the Monday Night Wars and the extent that the companies were going to try to outdo one another brought the NWA titles to the surface. And that to me is pretty freaking awesome. For a company that was supposed to RIP, 20 years ago when Shane Douglas threw the belt down, you know what I mean? Willie Bowen said, "I love the Nitro Girls." Yeah, Willie. Spice, what was her? The Spice, the Nitro Girl was my favorite. He did the logo off of my idea. That will tell your son again, thanks. This hat was from the NWA. I think it's still available. It's not like a snapback. It's one of these kind of dad bod hats. It's perfect for me. Might be perfect for you too, Fuzz. Yeah, the Danny Dills hooked me up with this in the t-shirt, and I feel like it's 76 weeks, so I got to be supporting the NWA. If they're going to support me, I'm going to support them. Retro says, when Lex Luger showed up, it turned up the flames. That was so crazy when Luger came because he had just been in the WWE, and you had so many guys swapping, and this was where it was so intense and cool. Oh, who's gonna jump next? And there was rumors that Shawn Michaels was gonna show up in Nitro. There was rumors that Bret Hart was gonna show up on Nitro, and that eventually came true. But all that stuff was a lot of fun. What was the first big angler match you guys remember? That's a great question, Double D. I'm a longtime wrestling fan. The first pay-per-view that I ever saw was WrestleMania 2 with Hogan and Bundy. But I had also I was watching wrestling back for WrestleMania 1, and I remember the build-up between Paul Orndorff and Roddy Piper and Cowboy Bob Orton and Hulk Hogan and Mr. T and Jimmy Snuka. That was the main event for WrestleMania. I remember watching the lead up to that as a kid, and I'm talking about 5 or 6 years old. But yeah, the big WrestleMania 2 was the big one, the first one that I saw. Izzy Marino for the Burke. I know, Chris, that you're trolling so hard right now, but I wouldn't hate Izzy Marino as NWA television champion. That belt's available. But world's champion, carrying the Burke, maybe get a couple years of experience in the ring first. Sting versus Hogan 97 was huge for me. That was a big deal. It was huge. I remember being at the Cox Arena down in San Diego, COX Arena in San Diego, and watching. It was a Nitro. It was a live Nitro that I went to. Me and a buddy, we drove down to San Diego, which is only 2.5 hours away. And at the time, DDP was one of my favorite wrestlers, and Raven was another one of my favorites. I've always loved Sting. And where we were situated, we were opposite of the hard cam, right? So we were on camera, couldn't see us, but we were there. And at one point, you had Raven and the Flock come down the right side, and then on the left side, you had Sting come down throughout the night. It was a feel good moment. And DDP was there, and Goldberg stole Mongo McMichael's Super Bowl ring. Yeah, that was good stuff. Super Dragon is a legend. Super Dragon is amazing. And I see your next question, Jam, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. Super Dragon revolutionized wrestling in Southern California, which had the byproduct of revolutionizing wrestling across the U.S. I'm not going to debate that. You could say that the East Coast Indies were the top of the wrestling, but what Super Dragon and the late Rising Sun were doing on pre-matches for XPW really kind of changed the way that the indies were looked at, and the wrestling instantly got better because of Pro Wrestling Guerrilla and Revolution Pro. Raven was my guy mostly because he was so mysterious. Raven, what was cool about Raven, right, is he had this era of like, fuck you. Like he was the embodiment of grunge music. And, you know, if you're a kid of the 90s, like that was kind of a big thing. And it was like the F you to the establishment, F you to the people. Like he was so different at the time. And I mean, like you look back at it now and it wasn't so much different from like Kevin Sullivan's, stable in Florida back in the early 80s. But it was something that, our eyes hadn't seen before. I love it when Goldberg defeated Raven for the U.S. Championship. Then he defeated the Farce of Wrestling Hulk Hogan for the. Yeah, that was a pretty cool moment. Like Goldberg again, he had this aura about him. I think the kids call it Riz, right? Double D, the Riz. He was great, but he wasn't like solid in the ring, but he had that aura, and he was something else, man. Like. He in some ways he was bigger than Stone Cold because Stone Cold, Stone Cold had a gimmick. Stone Cold had to work, and Goldberg just went out there and beat the shit out of people, and they both got reactions equally. And Goldberg tearing through the NWO was insane, and I watched weekly for it. Yeah, it was good stuff, man. Jammin says, J-Cal, did you ever go to a Revolution Pro show back in the day? Super Dragon and Excalibur helped run that promotion. Actually, I know a lot about Revolution Pro. In fact, I had friends that worked for Revolution Pro. In fact, one of my best friends on the planet was one of the early wrestlers for that promotion. He would wrestle as the name is Shogun, and I won't reveal his name to you today, but Shogun lost his mask to Super Dragon, and Shogun Revolution Pro. What's weird is where I grew up in the city of Lakewood, California. I was not too far from Norwalk, California. It's like a 10-minute drive, 20-minute drive. And at the Norwalk Indoor Swap Meet, they had a space set up for their Rev Pro shows. And I went to just one, and it had been there like for like at least a year. And I was so bummed that I'd only ever got to go to one, but I got to see a very early Scorpio Sky. I got to see, of course, my friend Shogun, Excalibur, Super Dragon, Rising Sun, Nosawa, who later ends up in New Japan Pro Wrestling. A lot of great talents then, and then later, they would move from Norwalk to the Anaheim Marketplace. They were there for a little bit, and then they would move to Frankensons, where they would do shows at the world famous Frankensons collection. Basically, it was a huge warehouse, like just ginormous warehouse, where they set up very much like a swap meet with vendors from retro. If you ever come to LA, that's where you need to go, is to Frankensons, where they have all kinds of vintage collectibles, toys, comic books, cards, everything. And they had a little arena set up in the back for wrestling. And so between Rev Pro and the AWS wrestling, that a lot of that was happening there. And then, of course, by that time, Rev Pro started to fade away. And that's when they started Epic Pro Wrestling with Gary Yap. And then, of course, that kind of turned into Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. Sorry, I'm getting into this weird stuff today. I was planning to talk about NWA, but I kind of let you guys take the conversation where it goes. And it's good stuff, man. John says, Fuzz. Let's get it right. It's Fuzz. says, if you count clicks, it was over 115,000 last time I looked. If views are just clicks to that tweet, not sure. I'm not entirely sure how it works. I know that our friend Overmetal put that in the Discord chat. Like, I think it counts 4 seconds of video watching counts as a view, but still 115,000 views, clicks, whatever is still pretty impressive. And again, those numbers rival that of the, the 10 pounds of gold series. We forget how like over that shit was. And I don't mean to put it down. It was amazing. It was incredible. You turn on YouTube and there was like 20,000 people watching all at the same time. I don't know if we had 20,000 people watching on X last week, but I'd like to believe that, a fair share of the people watching it were enjoying it. And yeah, I think it's pretty cool, man. Thank you to Jeremy, Championship Wrestling from Jeremy, for sharing the live. Appreciate you. Shared it on the X. Heard it on the X. Heard it on the X, I think, is an old song from the 70s. I don't remember who the band was that sang it, but I like the name for it. How many people actually watched on X, and how many of those people just scrolled by and it counted as a view? That's a great question, Devin. I think you actually had to click on it for it to count. I think. I don't know. I think. Bobby Petito's in the house. What's up, Bobby? After NWA is on Twitter, what's next? That's a great question, Bobby. We really don't know. And the problem is Billy isn't in a rush to tell anybody. And I think that might be a grave mistake for the NWA. I think it's a grave mistake for, like the Lightning One era, Lightning One LLC, because the problem is, the NWA unceremoniously was removed from the CW app, whether that was by CW's doing, by the WWE influence, by William Patrick Corgan's choice, whatever happened, that relationship came to a close, and it wasn't discussed around the street team, right? And in a weird way, like this NWA has maybe the world's largest street team, because I feel like the fanatics who support the NWA, have been jumping through hoops for the last 5 years to do so. We would watch on YouTube when it was readily available. Cool. When the 10 pounds of gold would just randomly drop on YouTube, most of us would jump on YouTube and watch it without really a lot of prior notice. And then when Power was announced, like, hey, we were all excited about it. We all jumped in. We started watching it. We were there. And when the decision was made to call it a pause because of the global pandemic, there wasn't a lot of talk about what was going to happen next. They just kind of they were hoping, like everyone else, that it would pass, right? I mean, I remember talking to Dave Lagana saying, well, hopefully this thing is over sooner than later so we could get to the Crockett Cup in Atlanta. They had that venue booked out. I had tickets to that show, the Crockett Cup 2020. And it didn't happen, obviously. And it got refunded my ticket. Yeah, sure. But we were all excited about that. They were doing their shows in 2019, 2020 started, and there was a pause. And what happened next was basically nothing. Nobody was talking about what's happening. They put out Carneyland, and that lasted for a while. Then Dave Lagana left the company under, some pretty salacious, scandalous type material. But in reality, he was never arrested for anything. He was never charged with anything. There's been no crime. And he just didn't come back. And when the NWA went on hiatus, again, nothing was told to anybody. When the NWA came back, it was on the back of Dave Marquez and the United Wrestling Network. And then that fell apart. And remember, they removed all the NWA content off of YouTube in 2020. I think it was 2021, or maybe it's 2020. They scrubbed everything off. And then when they came back, they started showing us matches that were filmed at the Thunder Studios as part of the United Wrestling Network Primetime Live series under the name Shockwave, right? But then, they made a deal to come back. They started up the NWA Plus subscription with Fight. And again, that became the primary home for the NWA was Fight, with the replays airing on YouTube. When that deal came to an end, Fight was still hosting their pay-per-views, but then the shows were just coming directly to YouTube again. That was fine. I don't think anyone had a problem with that. But then they took all the content off of Fight, which we all lost our pay-per-views. and then started putting exclusively on the CW. And again, this wasn't discussed with the street team. How can we get the word out for you, Billy? How can we be your voice? You know, when you tweet something, yeah, lots of people will see it. But if you have your fan base explaining to people where they can watch Power, I think that's a better way to go. You blew it. So what's next for the NWA after X? I don't know. I think until a pay window is determined where they can make money off of the show, staying on X is fine. I think even, maybe putting the replays on YouTube is a smart decision. I think Meta might be a little bit aging out as terms of social media. I don't know that Facebook or Instagram is the place to go. I mean, personally, I think TikTok is a very smart business decision, doing a TikTok live with your wrestling. But, I don't know what the plan is. It should be for free. Anyone who wants power behind a paywall wants the NWA to fail. I think that there are other alternative means. And you're right, power should be free. I think power 100% should be free. And I think there should be content that they do put behind a pay window. I think they need to make money. In order for a business to succeed, it has to have a return on investment. If you're just giving away a wrestling show without a return on that investment, you're not going to be in business for very long. How much money is Billy willing to lose? It's not my money, right? I could care less, but I'd like the NWA to stick around. So if we want the NWA to stick around, we got to be willing to pay for something. And, the amount that they were getting on for pay-per-views on Fight wasn't very prestigious, So putting it on Amazon or working with a Tubi or something like that, Paramount Plus, whatever it is, whatever the equation is that makes sense for the NWA, I say go for it. If that means power stays on YouTube and a new program is created for the NWA on a different platform behind a pay window, do it. Do it. The YouTube show doesn't have to be a fully produced wrestling show. It could be matches. You could just put up matches and interviews. It doesn't have to be polished. It doesn't have to be beautiful. It could just be like matches from Riot Fest, It could just be matches from the Sacred Heart in New York. It doesn't have to be a fully polished program. You could put that behind a pay window. Or not. It's not my money. The junior title was also being defended in Tokyo. That's right. That's right, Retro. The Tokyo Dome. Yeah. Power should have been on TNT. Power, before AEW existed, Power was supposed to be on TBS Sports, but on their streaming platform. That was the plan. That's where it was supposed to go. But, AEW was created, and AEW, honestly, that was a great platform to be on. For the AEW, to be on TNT, to be on TBS. So, needs to be a model where the free stuff with ads leads to tickets for pay-per-views and live events. Absolutely, Fuzz. That's where it needs to go. That would make the most sense for everybody. Look, ticket sales do drive some earnings. I'm sure they make a lot of money off the merch as well. But at the end of the day, you just see all that. And let's not compare AEW as a product to the NWA as a product, but you just saw AEW get like $150 million for 2 different shows with top tier talent. I think if Billy could get $10 million a year for his show, I think he would be floored. I think he'd be ecstatic. I don't know if there's a market that would pay $10 million a year for Power. WWF dropped ECW to bring in NWA. They kind of did. My pal, the Alliance Late Night is here. What is up? He is your unofficial NWA Internet Champion. Hey, Fiona, what's going on? I'm glad that you're listening. I appreciate you checking us out. I'm going to be in Scotland in the springtime, and I'm hoping that my family and Fiona could go to a wrestling show, or at the very least, my oldest daughter, she'll go to a wrestling show with me, and her and Fiona and I can check out a wrestling show. Hey, Fuzz, I got my pin framed, brother. That's dope. You got your pin framed? Maybe I should do that. That'd be kind of cool. My head is literally too big for my ass. Fuzz, that just means you got all the brains, bro. Hi, I'm Billy Corgan of the Smashing Pumpkins, and you're watching NWA Power on MTV. Look, that would work for me. That would be fine with that. I'm actually one of the fans of a connoisseur, if you will, of wrestling and rock and roll. Remember, right? Before Shotgun Saturday, or I guess after Shotgun Saturday Night left, there was Wrestling Society X on MTV, and I was down for that. But you know what was before that was Masked Warriors, Lucha Libre USA, and your boy Jay was watching those episodes as well. I would love to have either one of those back on MTV, but I would take the NWA on MTV. That'd be fine. I'd be good with it. Look, how many hours of what's that show called? My wife knows what it's called. Michelle, what's the show called where they watch the pranks and stuff on MTV? No, the other one. Ridiculous. How many episodes of ridiculousness can they air in a 24-hour span? You could just slot, maybe 1 hour of Power one night a week, Tuesdays at 6 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock Pacific. Take that, Ryan Seacrest. Willie Bowen says Freya and Siren are my favorite Nitro girls. Okay, thanks for that. Let's see. Overmetal. It would be great for Carneyland too, since it's all scripted stuff. Yeah. Undisputed Truth says Bobby Petito, Kyle Davis might be buying half of the NWA to run it as a different promotion. Undisputed Truth, I don't think there's any validity to that whatsoever. Kyle Davis isn't independently wealthy. He works for the NWA. He might make some money. I mean, he might have some money, but he doesn't have enough money to buy the NWA. And furthermore, why would William Patrick Corgan sell the NWA? If he's going to sell it, look, Gary Vaynerchuk tried to buy a piece of the NWA and Billy told him no. And if you don't know who Gary V is, do some research. Great motivational speaker. And if you're trying to make it on the internet, he's a guy to emulate for sure. But Billy wouldn't sell a multi-millionaire part of the NWA to help push it forward. Why would he sell it to Kyle Davis? Let's see. You guys are throwing out some names for the Burke. Cassandra Golden for the Burke. I don't even know who that is. I'll be honest with you. Starcade 97. I was 1 month old. Devin Dowling, quit telling me how young you are, man. I was in high school in 97. You were a year old. I was 18. You could have been my son, Devin Dowling. Sean Mega saying Super Dragon and Lucha Underground led to the lucha scene on the independents. Yeah, I mean, Super Dragon, look, Super Dragon is not Hispanic. He's not Mexican, but he is trained in lucha. People forget that guy was around for a lot longer than you think he was. He was training with Ron Riviera, and they were doing stuff in Tijuana. They were doing stuff with Conan. They were doing stuff even with WCW early when he never was officially under contract with WCW, but later in the early 2000s, I mean, he was wrestling for All Japan Pro Wrestling. It didn't last very long. Things went bad for him there, but he was wrestling internationally in Australia. I mean, he was getting booked everywhere, and his talents were getting booked everywhere. The people who were working for, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla or, Revolution Pro, those guys were getting booked in Mexico and Europe. And, Scott Lost and Joey Ryan went to Japan based on their, their Revolution Pro work. Scorpio Sky and, I forgot his tag team partner's name. Scorpio Sky got to Japan based on his work in Revolution Pro. So that's kind of a big deal. You don't know what Riz is. That's how far I am in the comments. I'm just now seeing your response to my Riz statement. That was like 20 minutes ago. It'd be a different word. Super Dragon was everywhere in the 90s, literally everywhere. I have him on all types of DVDs. Yeah, I mean, he was working for IWA Mid-South, and it's more like the late 90s, early 2000s, but IWA Mid-South, Combat Zone Wrestling, Ring of Honor, Epic Pro, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, Revolution Pro. basically anywhere. You know, he was getting a lot of looks in a lot of different places. What's up, Steve G? Ryan Davis is here. What's up, Ryan? How you been? Goldberg had the it factor. You can't create that. It's God-given. What's crazy is, like, I saw his little interaction with Gunther on Raw the other night, and I'm thinking, yeah, you know what? I'm all right with that. I think I'd want to see Gunther and Goldberg. Let's see Gunther put the hurt on Goldberg. Did you get your red hat yet? No, I haven't bought any of my red hats yet. I need to make an order. There's a bunch of merch that I want to get. I want to get a red hat, both styles. I want to get the red t-shirt. I have not had the time nor the funds to invest in some more merchandise. Before I come to Cali, I'll be in contact with UGA, definitely. We got to wait to make sure that what happens next, because you might want to come to see some studio style wrestling here in California. So the only way I could cast X to my TV was through SmartView, and it's only like 6 inches tall on my TV. So I'll be forced to watch Power on my phone. Ryan, I apologize for you, man. I watch it on my desktop. That's how I kind of view it. But I have a 36-inch TV that I use for my monitor on my desktop. So what I'm looking at right now is like a 36-inch TV, and it makes it very easy to watch everything. Let's see. Steve G, how far away are you from Burbank? Is that a drive for you? Because I might have good news for you in a couple months. Any PC in your house will hook up to most TVs with an HDMI or DisplayPort to HDMI cable. Yeah. It was a ZZ Top song, Fuzz. I couldn't remember where I heard it from. The X was a bootleg radio out of Mexico that you could get across the border in Texas. Okay. I didn't know that. The X video doesn't play just by scrolling. You have to stop for it to start playing. There it is. That's good to know. The high desert. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's the drive to Burbank, but it might be worth it for you for a couple of times a month. NWA should at least put the matches on YouTube after they aired on the X, kind of like AEW do after the show is concluded. I don't hate that idea either. And I don't need you to put every single piece of Power on YouTube. Like, I think it would be totally understandable if you just put matches on there. In fact, I think that would be a very smart thing for the NWA to do, because you put up a match and it's going to be seen more than an entire event, because some people don't want to watch a 45-minute event, but they won't hesitate to watch a 10 to 15-minute match. Think about it. Overmetal said, more importantly, the 4 seconds should have been the 10 pounds of gold match or a video package, not the Billy promo. The Billy promo. How arrogant are you? How arrogant do you have to be that you're debuting on a new platform, trying to get eyeballs onto your product, and you sit there talk about nothing? You bring out the Blue Meanie, who has nothing to do with the NWA going forward. That's how you're going to sell me to watch the rest of the show? You know that was diehard NWA fans that sat through the Blue Meanie promo, because I sat there live and kept thinking, like, I hope this ends soon. Maybe I'm going to go get a drink. Hey, Retro, you need anything from the bar, bro? Because I don't want to watch this shit. You know? Can't be the only one. I agree, Ryan. Why only put it on X? Parallel stream on YouTube. Yeah, that's the other thing too, Fuzz. And I don't know if they don't want to do it, if they think the exclusivity makes it special. Like, look, right now, your boy Jay, we're streaming on YouTube, on Twitch, and on X. Excuse me, not X, on Kick. Kick is another platform very similar to Twitch. I don't have a following on there at all, but I keep posting on there hoping that someone might find it and come check us out on YouTube where I can see their comments. But if I'm Billy Corgan, maybe I do put the first run of the show on exclusively on X, maybe for the first few days. And then I'm going to run it again on Twitch, on YouTube, on Facebook, on any platform that has video content consumption. Because why wouldn't you? You might capture a fan. You might capture multiple fans. Being able to see it on Facebook. Maybe there's an entire group dedicated to the NWA that gets ignored by the current NWA on Facebook. There's lots of groups like that. Oh man, I'd partner with them. Hey guys, we're going to put our show Power uninterrupted right here on your channel. What do you think? That'd be awesome. Maybe I'm the only one. NWA YouTube should also do a playlist of Tom versus EC3. Yeah, again, I agree with that too, over Metal. Matthew, I think that, there's a story there to be told. But again, like the moderation of their YouTube channel is not very good. I don't think they do a very good job of moderating their YouTube at all. But then again, it is a small mom and pop corporation. What do you expect? Time is money. You can't have it every way. There's so much stuff that needs to be done. But like that, to me, like that kind of, again, the social media aspect and creating these channels on YouTube, making shorts, man. Like, why aren't they making more shorts? This channel has grown like by 500% because of shorts. Like, no, that's how you make your money. Maybe not make your money, but that's how you get an audience right now on YouTube. They're pushing shorts. They tell you in the content creator, hey, we want more shorts. Their shorts now are October 15th. They're going to start being 3 minutes long instead of a minute long. They're pushing that format to fans, to viewers, because they're trying to compete with TikTok. They're trying to compete with Instagram Reels. So why not jump on that? Those promos that you have these guys cutting, 3-minute promo, put that on your stories, dude. Your shorts on YouTube. But who am I? What do I know? Yeah, I mean, the audio clearance that does that plays into it, of sure, but like the music that they use, I believe, is non-licensed music. I think it's commercially available to anyone to use. And if it's not, then just have Smashing Pumpkins do all the songs. Come on, it's easy. He's got 3 different, he's got Smashing Pumpkins, he's got Zwan, and he's got himself. There's 3 different platforms of music he could choose from for every star in the NWA. He can do it. He'd make money doing it. Of course, Joe Kazana Promotions gets away with non-licensed audio. Yeah, and I don't know if that could affect his earnings. But, I don't think that any of the NWA promoters are using YouTube to make earnings. I think they're using it to advertise their product and hoping that the ticket sales will compensate the money that they're putting out for this. But, I mean, in my mind, you could do both. And the right person in charge, the right person who knows what they're doing could do both. Double D, I'll message you later, man. I really wish they'd put together a set of playlists that is wrestlers based and timeline based. Yeah, that'd be good. NWA signed Leela Gray and J-Rod from OVW. These 2 ladies can wrestle with the best of them. I'm all for them bringing in the best talent they can get. I don't know from just what I saw, some of the pictures, and thank God that Hurricane Milton didn't come until just this week, because had it been this weekend, they wouldn't have had those tapings, and the NWA would have been kind of screwed in terms of content. Whatever does happen next for the NWA, those tapings that were filmed this weekend are certainly going to play a role on what they're going to air next. And this season of Power is basically the 76th anniversary show. I don't know if they filmed the matches at Sacred Heart. I don't know if they filmed the matches the following night in New York. I don't know. And then Samhain is coming up at the end of the month. They're building up towards that. But again, these aren't pay-per-views. So maybe Samhain is just another Power taping. I think that'd be a mistake if that's what they do. But, we don't know what their plans are. Big Chris Togg to run operations. There you go. Facebook is a place to go in the sense that a lot of old asses use it. So you want eyeballs, then everywhere makes sense. Yeah, I mean, that's getting your eyes on the product, I think, is super important. And I think anyone who doesn't understand that, even a half-hour version of Power, a condensed version of Power, put that on everything. Who am I? Marquez has been killing it with MLW. They put on great shows while touring and have been consistently lately. Oh, remember, Marquez is only handling production for them. He doesn't book. He doesn't write. He's not, slapping the ground, flyering for these events. He's literally just doing the production side of it. If you think the production looks good, then hats off to Dave Marquez. But he's not like responsible for any of the other part of MLW. That's all handled by Court and company. You like MLW? Why? There's a lot of good things about MLW. Bad Dude Tito, 3 words, open weight champion. If you can't get behind Bad Dude Tito in wrestling, then I don't think you really like wrestling. Ryan Davis, is Marquez booking MLW? No, he's not. I need to frame my pin and my piece of the Marco Camille keyboard. JCW is Wrestling Society X without explosions. There it is. Oh, snap. I'm wearing my 75 Alliance Summit shirt today, too. Nice. I don't think I've ever known your wife was within shouting distance of you, not in a computer room. So I'm in a broadcasting studio closet, and my lovely wife is in the bedroom right now. She's not normally this close when I'm doing these streams, but since she was there, I wanted to use her brain because she actually really likes that show, Ridiculousness. And anytime we go on vacation and we're stuck in the hotel room for longer than 30 minutes, Ridiculousness or Ultimate Pranksters, what's it called? Impractical Chokers. I don't know the names of shows, apparently. That's what it'll be on. That was my cousin. Roswell, you and I graduated in 97 too. Retro, you were 9? You guys got to quit telling me how old you are. Jesus Christ. You're making me feel old as shit. Later, Fuzz. Yeah, Steve. Nothing is for certain yet, but if you have a problem driving at night, try to remedy that problem. Burbank is going to be happening, I think, pretty soon. And it's going to be a wild environment, I think. Can we talk about the biggest match in X-Pro? And that's James Storm is in the Southern Six. Is that JCP content? Exodus Pro content? Or is that Juggalo content? Because Juggalo content exists in a universe outside of the NWA. They don't intermingle. They share a universe, but they're not the same. Yeah, that whole segment of Billy with Blue Meanie and Kyle, and the big announcement is there's no announcement. That was just such a, I don't know, it's kind of a smack in the face of most wrestling fans. Steve G, Johnny Robbie is coming back. She was seriously hurt, but I think she's coming back. I think she'll be wrestling in San Francisco soon for West Coast Pro Wrestling. That's what I heard anyways. I did see her at the last event in Irvine, but she wasn't competing. She was just there in attendance. Does anyone know what happened between Billy and Joe Alonzo? The first thing is Joe Alonzo basically said that there was a dispute on pay and there was no ill feelings, but Billy was only willing to pay X amount of dollars, and Joe Alonzo thought he was worth more than X amount of dollars and didn't want to become exclusive to the NWA for that amount of money. So they opted to part ways. I don't think they ended on negative terms at all. And for as much shit talking as Joe Alonzo does, he seems to be a pretty savvy independent wrestler. And I don't think he would do anything to jeopardize a potential return to the NWA. I just don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. Yeah, Steve, I do appreciate that, man. You check out all the shorts, and I do appreciate that. Oh, my God, you guys are making me feel so old. Bobby Petito says, I was born in 2001. Jiminy Christmas, man. AOL did not kill WCW says, you look like Kevin Owens. I get that a lot. See, Willie, like you're a little bit older fella, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but you were 23 in 97. I was 18 in 97. You're only 5 years older than me. he is Kevin Owens. Thanks, Double D. Retro says, Bobby, you are a ruthless aggression era, baby. That's right. That's right. Bobby Petito was born in the ruthless aggression era. All right, guys, so we're going to wrap it up here. Oh, we didn't even talk about Power. Well, how'd you guys let me not talk about Power? Of course, this is the week of Power where we're going to get some pretty interesting matchups. I, for one, am excited to see what we're going to get tonight because, I mean, I was there, but it always looks different when you're watching it on TV. And, of course, the matches for tonight, that Liberty Bell match, that's the tag team match. And I'm sorry, wasn't able to find graphics for tonight's show, but the Liberty Bell match between the Immortals, which is Odinson and Kratos versus Carnage and Damage, Blunt Force, Force Trauma, and Aron Stevens. That match got so chaotic, and I had a really good shot. I haven't posted it yet, and I kind of wish I had it up for today, but it'll probably go up sometime this week. Carnage chops Odinson so hard, or maybe it was Kratos, now I can't remember. And it was so hard and so stiff, it popped, and I swear my eardrum rang the rest of the weekend I was in Philadelphia. It was incredible. I never heard a chop that loud. And the violence in that match, it was a lot of fun. It was probably one of my favorite matches on the card. So, I mean, it was a good tag team match. And again, there was no titles on the line here. This was just for dominance. And, Kratos and Odinson are hard-hitting dudes. Carnage and Damage were not going to be anybody's whooping boy that night. They really were laying into each other. The other match that is happening is they're crowning an NWA National Champion. I think the national title has really got whoever becomes the next champion really has its work cut out for them because, man, the title has been used as such a demeaning prop. Everyone who's ever won the title is just quick to hand it off to try to get the 10 pounds of gold. Chris Adonis held on to that title for so long to try to build it up. And, I don't know if he was trying to build it up, but that was the case. Him holding that title for as long as he did built it up. When Trevor Murdoch was national champion, he was building that title up. And I feel like since Adonis left the company, that national title has just felt like a prop. And I don't feel like it's been given the notoriety that it deserves. Jack Stain had a pretty decent run with it, but he never really got too many defenses with it. Crimson, short run with it. All in all, the national title has been hurt by, EC3 dropping it last year at the anniversary show to challenge for the 10 pounds of gold. Tom Latimer dropping it at this year's show to get a shot at EC3. Silas Mason dropping it to get a shot at EC3. It really hasn't. It's lost some momentum. So I feel like that title, under the right person, could really be built up again, and it needs to be built up again to make it significant, to make it have some meaning. And, you have 4 really good competitors in this match. You have Carson Drake, who's probably the least likable out of the 3 guys. I got to be honest, I have no connection to Carson Drake whatsoever. I don't hate him. I don't love him. I'm very just indifferent to him. He's very warm milk to me. I'm not excited by his matches. I'm bored by his promos. He's a guy that could certainly grow. If he were champion, he could certainly use some development, but he's just okay. And then you've got Mims with BLK Jeez, and Mims was a former TV champion, and Mims had such a fun babyface run in the NWA that it'd be interesting to see what he could do, what he could do as the national champion. And he's a different character. He's a different cat now with BLK Jeez in his corner. He'd be very exciting to see. The guy who I probably would think we could benefit the most from it is Paul Burchill. Paul Burchill's a solid wrestler, very, very good, but has yet to Double D. You remember me saying that a few weeks ago? Awesome. Paul Burchill used to have, or does have, an incredible wrestling background, has a good pedigree being a former WWE competitor, but really hasn't had any kind of mobility in the NWA. They're not really using him well. They're not really using him bad. They're not even really using him. And he's a guy that I think could help carry the company forward. When you talk about like a grappler, a guy like him, a guy like Spencer Slade, I think are great additions to the roster to give you somebody who can actually wrestle, like good solid wrestling, not over the top silly gimmicks, but a good solid wrestler. Burchill, I think, would benefit from having a manager who could do some of the speaking for him. And I know this would go against most of your guys' opinion, but I think Austin Idol should be the one managing Paul Burchill. I think that'd be a fun combination. And then also in that matchup, we said Carson Drake, we said Mims, Bryan Idol, the needle mover. He was the guy that I going into this matchup, I thought he was going to win the title, which kind of spoils who he's not the guy that wins the title, but he is. He bleeds the NWA through and through. He's part of the booking committee. He's part of taking the territories and all kinds of places. So I'm excited. Like Bryan Idol being in that match seemed necessary, but I'm not a big Bryan Idol fan in terms of his in-ring competition. I'm not an Idol guy, so it really kind of came down to Burchill and Mims for me. And CBD, who's CBD? Is that Carson Drake's initials? Am I missing out on that? I have that Lex Luger U.S. title replica, and it's badass. Can't Billy use that belt as the national title? Billy used the title that he wanted to because he liked that one. He really did. That might have even been a Dave Lagana choice, but yeah, I'm all right with it. It doesn't bother me too much. I did not know that was his middle name was Bartholomew. Carson Bartholomew Drake. Oy. Who's his tag team partner? Thaddeus Herbert Copeland? I don't know. That's stupid. All right. And then, of course, in the main event for tonight, the big showdown between Max the Impaler and Kenzie Paige for the NWA Women's Championship, the World Championship, if you will, the Burke. The belt that Camille made famous. Thunder Rosa really put that title on the map, but Camille is the one that took it for 800 plus days. And Kenzie Paige was the woman to take the belt off of Camille. Now, will Max Impaler be the person to take the belt off of Kenzie Paige? This matchup, this matchup was crazy. This matchup was all over the place, and you really saw another level from Kenzie Paige. And I remember Kenzie Paige lost the Women's Television Championship to Max the Impaler at the 75th anniversary show. So in some regards, this is kind of like a rematch from that moment. Max took the belt off of Kenzie. And then the very next night, Kenzie is the one to win the Burke Invitational by defeating Max the Impaler. So it's kind of like they're one-on-one, right? In one regard, Max took the belt off of Kenzie, but the other regard, Kenzie prevented Max from getting a shot at the Burke. And so that matchup in itself has a lot of history between Kenzie and Max the Impaler. And as we get closer to that title match, who's a tougher challenge for Kenzie in the NWA right now than Max the Impaler? So this is going to be a lot of fun. Of course, if you guys have watched some of the other content that's out there from the NWA, if you've seen the results from Riot Fest or any of the other like advertised matches or graphics or photos, whatever, it's been spoiled for you, but it's a fun matchup. And to see how the champion wins the title, keeps the title, retains the title, defeats, I kind of spoiled it already, so whatever, but it's a fun matchup, but it's definitely worth a watch. And I think you guys will enjoy it a lot. So that's going to do it for us, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on a Tuesday, talking the NWA. Go over to the X now. Switch over. Watch the X. But, hey, if you want to help support the show, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. It helps the algorithm. It gets the show seen by more and more people. We do appreciate that. If you want to financially support us, we do offer ways to do that. You could buy Dubby and have lots of energy. You could buy a title from Trophy Smack, and that puts money in our pocket as well. Or, hey, you could just buy merchandise in the merch link. All those links are below. Make sure you use the code, the Alliance Blog, for all three of them to get a little bit of savings. And that's going to do it for us. We'll see you on Thursday. Hope you guys have a great week. And until next time, we'll see you at the matches.
Thanks for checking out the Pre-Party, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. You should hit that subscribe button and join our community. I also want to remind you that we recap NWA Power every Thursday at 8 p.m. in the live stream. We try to stay social, so find us at the Alliance blog. And until next time, we are the Alliance.